Ah, people are stuttering in real time right now. Stuttering, shaking, avoiding eye contact, like their souls just got subpoenaed by the truth itself. And baby, they are glitching out. Their masks are slipping, sliding, falling off completely. And the world is finally seeing them without the little costumes they stitched together to impress the blind. Nothing about them is adding up anymore. Every lie they layered onto their faces is peeling back like old wallpaper. Every false identity they tried to sell is collapsing under the pressure of your presence. You didn't expose them by speaking. You exposed them by existing. The moment your truth started shining, their disguises started malfunctioning. And everybody sees it. Everybody sees them scrambling, blinking too fast, swallowing too hard, breaking eye contact because they know the game is up. They thought they could gaslight you forever. They thought they could twist narratives, flip realities, and walk around untouched. They thought they could paint you as the unstable one while they walked around wearing entire costumes of fabricated sanity. But the second you stood tall in who you really are, the air shifted. Their stories cracked. Their voices shook. Their behavior betrayed them. When you walk in truth, people wearing masks always panic. Always. It's a natural spiritual law. And right now, the law is in full effect. You have people who once mocked you now fumbling with their own guilt like it's burning their fingers. People who once lied on you now choking on their own words because the truth keeps forcing itself through their cracks. Their nervous systems are glitching because the room is reacting to you before they even speak. People are noticing their inconsistencies. People are noticing their fake confidence. People are noticing how they can't hold eye contact with you for more than 2 seconds without folding. They didn't expect this moment. They thought you would stay quiet, stay small, stay hidden. They thought you would keep doubting yourself while they strutted around with counterfeit power. They thought you would keep questioning your worth while they performed as the stable, confident ones. They didn't know truth has a vibration, and when that vibration hits the room, masks fall off like dead leaves. You didn't say a word. You didn't announce anything. You didn't clap back. You didn't gather them. You simply stepped into who you really are, and the light exposure did the rest. People who used to feel comfortable lying around you now feel their tongues tripping over every syllable. People who used to inflate themselves in your presence now feel their ego deflate like a punctured balloon. People who once treated you like a question mark now treat you like a mirror they're terrified to look into. Because a mirror doesn't lie, and neither do you. The truth in you is so loud it makes liars whisper. It's so sharp it cuts through excuses. It's so pure it burns through facades. They can't play pretend anymore. Not around you, not in this new reality, not when every step you take exposes what they've been hiding under their skin. You're not just glowing, you're revealing. You're not just evolving, you're unveiling. And people who spent their whole lives perfecting their little masks don't know what to do. When someone walks in with realness so potent, it strips them bare on sight. They thought if they avoided accountability long enough, the world would never see their true nature. But the universe has perfect timing. And that timing hit them the moment you chose to stop dimming yourself. They thought you were soft. They thought you were naive. They thought you were easy to fool, easy to manipulate, easy to guilt trip. They didn't realize you were simply observing. You were studying. You were gathering data in silence. You were letting them reveal themselves. And now that the truth has arrived, they're shaking. Because none of their old tactics work. anymore. Not the charm, not the crocodile tears, not the exaggerated innocence, not the fake humility, not the forced smiles. Their entire performance is collapsing in real time. They are malfunctioning because your presence forces them into honesty, even if they're not ready for it, even if they never planned for it, even if they prayed no one would ever figure them out. But masks always fall, lies always crack, and truth always wins, especially when you carry it without flinching. You didn't just stand tall, you stood unbothered, unshaken, and uninterested in playing their little perception games. And that right there stripped half their power. People who rely on illusions can't survive in bright light. People built on deceit can't breathe in atmospheres of truth. People who crafted entire identities around fooling others crumble when faced with someone they cannot fool. They underestimated you because they were studying your silence instead of your spirit. They thought silence meant weakness. They didn't know silence meant calibration. They didn't know silence meant elevation. They didn't know silence meant you were outgrowing their entire playbook. The funny part is they're not even scared of you. They're scared of themselves around you. They're scared of what they might reveal. They're scared of what slips out. They're scared of how obvious their guilt becomes. They're scared of how transparent their insecurities look when standing next to someone who doesn't wear a mask. They're scared because they see how natural it is for you to embody what they've been pretending to be. Your authenticity exposes their performance every single time. That's why their hands shake. That's why their eyes dart around the room. That's why their voices crack when they speak to you. That's why they suddenly become overly polite or overly defensive or overly distant. They're reacting to their own exposure, not to you. They're reacting to the collapse of the identity they built on lies. They're reacting to the panic of being seen too clearly. You don't even have to confront them. Life is confronting them for you. Every truth they tried to bury is clawing its way back to the surface. Every lie they told is unraveling thread by thread. Every mask they wore is slipping under the weight of your presence. They're learning in real time that when the truth walks in unapologetically, everything falls apart automatically. They're realizing the same thing narcissists all over the world are realizing. There is no hiding place left when exposure is spiritual. They feel that exposure in their bones. They feel it in the way people look at them differently now. They feel it in the way conversations shift around you. They feel it in the quiet, the tension, the awkwardness in the air. Their bodies betray them long before their minds admit it. Stuttering is the body's confession. Shaking is the ego's collapse. Avoiding eye contact is the soul's surrender. They know the truth is stripping them bare, and there's nothing they can do to stop it. God didn't give you this level of discernment to protect them. God gave you this level of discernment to protect you. And because you finally stepped into that discernment, everything false is being dragged into the light, whether people are ready or not. They're glitching because they realize the one person they thought they could fool has become the one person who sees them too clearly to ever be fooled again. That realization alone is destroying their confidence from the inside out. Their masks aren't falling accidentally. Their masks are falling because they were never secured in truth to begin with. What they put on their faces were costumes stitched together with insecurity, envy, imitation, and a desperate need to appear powerful in front of people who never questioned them. But you are not one of those people. You don't absorb illusions, you dissolve them. You don't swallow lies. You read their fingerprints and send them back to their owners. That's why every fake identity collapses the moment it stands next to your authenticity. It's not something you're doing intentionally. It's just how truth behaves in the presence of distortion. It exposes, it reveals, it unmasks. And right now, their souls feel like a stage light is fixed directly onto them, catching every twitch, every hesitation, every contradiction. Their bodies react before their minds can even adjust. They stutter because their tongues can't keep up with the lies their minds are trying to assemble. They shake because their nervous systems know they're standing in front of someone who cannot be manipulated. They avoid eye contact because the windows of their own spirit are too revealing, and they know you'd see everything they've been hiding with a single glance. They're not reacting to judgment. They're reacting to recognition. They can feel in their bones that you're seeing them without the filter. People who rely on deception are comfortable everywhere except in front of the one person they can't deceive. That's why they crumble around you, even if they're smiling. Their smiles are stretched too thin, their voices too soft or too loud, their posture too rigid or too shaky. Nothing about them is natural when they face someone who can sense dishonesty at the molecular level. You have become a threat to the ecosystem of their lies, a destabilizer, a disruptor, a spotlight they never asked for but cannot escape. Because once truth awakens in someone, it doesn't go back to sleep. And once it sees clearly, it doesn't unsee. They feel exposed in your presence because they are exposed in your presence. Every hidden motive, every quiet resentment, every jealous thought, every whispered smear. It's all sitting behind their eyes like a confession waiting to spill. They tried to build their power through performance, but performance collapses in front of reality. They tried to build their reputation on illusions, but illusions dissolve in the face of substance. They tried to build their identity through comparison, yet comparison disintegrates when the person you measured yourself against stops participating in the game entirely. They're learning the hard way that truth isn't loud. It isn't aggressive. It isn't vengeful. Truth is simply undeniable. It stands. It breathes, it exists, and its existence alone rearranges everything around it. When you walk into a room now, your energy acts like a reset button. Everyone's real character flickers to the surface. People who have nothing to hide stand taller. People who operate with pure intentions feel safe. People who have always been genuine become even more open. But the ones who wore masks feel their own facade melting the second they notice you. You're not exposing them, their own behavior is. You're not calling them out, their own spirit is. You're not punishing them, their own guilt is. And that's the part shaking them the most. They realize you don't need to lift a finger to dismantle what they tried to build. Your presence alone unravels everything they constructed to protect their ego. They have spent months, years, entire seasons creating a version of themselves they hoped the world would accept. But the blueprint they followed was flawed from the beginning because they built it on falsehood. They shaped themselves according to what they wished they were, not who they truly are. They copied traits, stole behaviors, mimicked confidence, rehearsed empathy, memorized emotional responses like scripts they hoped no one would notice. But you noticed. You noticed the tension behind their kindness, the calculation behind their generosity, the envy behind their compliments. You noticed the flicker of competitiveness in their eyes, the subtle digs hidden in their jokes, the way they smiled when you struggled, yet acted supportive when people were watching. You saw everything they hoped no one would ever catch, and now they can feel you seeing it. That awareness alone is enough to shatter their entire mask. They can't hide from you because you're not seeing with the eyes you used to. You're seeing through spirit now, through intuition, through discernment, sharpened by every betrayal, every disappointment, every knife-in-the-back moment that forced your perception to evolve. You're not just perceiving their actions, you're reading their energy, you're reading their tone, their hesitation, their inconsistencies, their micro-expressions, their avoidance patterns, their leakage of guilt. You've become a human lie detector without trying. Every time they stand near you, they feel like they're standing under an X-ray machine that scans not their bones, but their intentions. And intentions don't lie. Masks do. But masks can only survive where truth is timid. Your truth is not timid anymore. It's not whispering. It's walking in boldly, rearranging the whole atmosphere, cutting through distortion like glass. They used to treat you like someone they could play with, someone they could hide things from, someone they could manipulate through charm, gaslighting, or silence. They didn't realize that your silence matured into something dangerous, clarity. They didn't realize that while they were performing, you were transforming. They didn't realize that while they were rehearsing lies, your truth was sharpening. They didn't realize that while they were trying to deceive you, their own energy was betraying them. They thought you were slow. They thought you were unaware. They thought you were gullible. They thought they had you wrapped around their little fake narratives. They had no idea they were dealing with someone who learns people faster than people learn themselves. Someone whose intuition is calibrated by spiritual precision. Someone who doesn't need proof to sense the real story, because the real story reveals itself in energy long before it reveals itself in words. And that's why they're spiraling now. Because they know you know. Maybe you never said it out loud. Maybe you never confronted them. Maybe you never held them accountable. But they can feel it. They can feel that the version of you they used to manipulate is gone. They can feel that the door they once slipped through is sealed. They can feel that your perception has risen to a level where their old tactics look foolish, childish, transparent. You're not fighting them. You're not exposing them. You're not retaliating. You simply evolved beyond the frequency where their disguises work. And evolution is the one thing a liar cannot survive. When someone rises into truth, everyone built on deceit either transforms or collapses. They chose collapse, not because you wanted it, but because their spirit couldn't survive authenticity. They shaped their identity around masks too fragile to withstand exposure. And that exposure has arrived, not in the form of confrontation, but in the form of your metamorphosis. You stepped into yourself, and their entire narrative fell apart. You embraced your truth, and their performance glitched. You unlocked your discernment, and their illusions evaporated. Their anxiety is just a side effect of living in a world where authenticity now has the highest level of spiritual authority. And they can feel that authority radiating from you, whether you speak or not. They're not afraid of being judged. They're afraid of being seen. Because being seen by someone who carries truth is the deepest form of judgment they will ever experience. They feel that judgment in their bones before a single word leaves your mouth. It's the kind of judgment that doesn't attack, it reveals. The kind that doesn't accuse, it illuminates. The kind that doesn't expose through force, it exposes through contrast. When someone who has been lying stands next to someone who has stopped lying to themselves, the energy difference is so severe it becomes unbearable. That's what they're feeling, that unbearable contrast, that widening gap between the identity they pretend to be and the identity they truly are. And every time they stand before you, that gap stretches even further. becoming a silent indictment they cannot escape. Their discomfort is not your doing. It's their own soul recognizing it can no longer hide behind performance. Their body reacts because the truth within you calls out the truth within them, and the parts they've been avoiding don't want to answer. This is why they tremble. This is why they shift their weight from foot to foot. This is why they break eye contact the moment your gaze brushes theirs. They know you can see what they've spent a lifetime trying to bury. They know you can hear the lies, even when they phrase them as compliments. They know you can sense the envy, even when they disguise it as concern. They know you can feel the manipulation, even when they wrap it in sweetness. It's not that they suddenly became worse people. It's that you can finally read them without distortion. The fog is gone. The blindfold has dissolved. The illusion has evaporated, and now you're perceiving them with eyes that have outgrown naivety. And that terrifies them, because they realize the version of you they relied on no longer exists. They can't feed off your uncertainty. They can't hide behind your empathy. They can't gaslight someone who no longer doubts their own intuition. They can't shape your perception when you no longer outsource your truth to other people's opinions. The game is over. Not because you ended it, but because it can't function on your frequency anymore. When someone elevates, every relationship built on deception either adjusts or collapses. These ones collapsed. You didn't remove yourself. They exposed themselves out of your life. They withdrew because their masks couldn't survive the light you now carry. They distanced themselves because their spirit couldn't handle the pressure of authenticity. They pulled back because their lies felt louder in your presence than in silence. And that's why their bodies betray them. They're not glitching because you changed. They're glitching because they can't change fast enough to keep up with the real you. They're glitching because their performance can't keep up with their reality. They're glitching because pretending requires stability, and exposure destabilizes every false thing they built their personality around. You've become the unexpected trigger that forces them to confront the parts of themselves they avoided. And confrontation, for people who have lived behind masks for years, feels like death. Their ego senses the threat first. That's why the shaking starts. That's why their breathing shifts. That's why their sentences tangle. The ego knows you're not someone who can be impressed, deceived, or manipulated anymore. They feel powerless, not because you took their power, but because their power was never real. It was borrowed from your lack of awareness. Now that awareness has returned to its rightful owner, they're left holding nothing but the truth they spent years running from. And truth is heavy for people who have only ever lifted lies. The weight of their own behavior is crushing them, and it shows in every awkward pause, every delayed response, every forced gesture. Their anxiety is evidence of their exposure. Their discomfort is evidence of your evolution. Their reaction is the real confession they never intended to give. You can learn more about a person from how their body reacts to your presence than from any words they speak. Your spirit has become a truth serum, extracting their real nature without a single question asked. They're trying to hold themselves together, but the pieces weren't glued with authenticity. They were held up by performance, and performance crumbles under pressure. The pressure isn't coming from you. The pressure is coming from the truth resonating through you. People who wear masks think the world will fall apart if their real face is exposed. They don't realize the only thing falling apart is the lie. The real face was always meant to breathe. But when they've spent too long suffocating behind the mask, breathing feels terrifying. That's why they run. That's why they avoid. That's why they shift their gaze. Because the truth in you triggers the truth in them that they are not ready to meet. And deep down, they know this exposure is only the beginning. They know the unraveling they feel is not a temporary glitch. It's the consequence of playing roles they were never spiritually equipped to maintain. They know the collapse they're experiencing is not random. It's the result of pretending in front of someone who no longer participates in illusions. They know the fear in their chest is not paranoia. It's their soul remembering what authenticity feels like and realizing how far they drifted from it. You are not their enemy. You are their mirror. And mirrors terrify people who have spent their whole lives avoiding reflections. You are the moment their spirit sees itself clearly. You are the moment their mask slides off. You are the moment the truth they buried crawls out of the ground. And that moment hits them with the force of everything they refused to fix within themselves. That force is what weakens their voice. That force is what trembles their hands. That force is what locks their eyes onto the floor instead of your face. They're not scared of you. They're scared of finally being revealed. They're scared of finally being recognized. They're scared of finally being unable to escape the truth of who they became. And the wild part? You didn't do anything. You didn't expose them. You didn't confront them. You didn't fight them. You simply grew. You simply healed. You simply evolved. And your evolution became the light source that revealed the cracks in their character. They're not shaking because you're powerful. They're shaking because your power makes their weakness undeniable. They're not stuttering because you're intimidating. They're stuttering because your authenticity destabilizes everything they constructed to feel superior. They're not avoiding eye contact because you're judging them. They're avoiding eye contact because their own soul is. You are walking proof that truth doesn't need an army, a strategy, or an announcement to win. It just needs to stand. It just needs to breathe. It just needs to be. And as long as you continue to stand in that truth, the world will keep revealing who was real, who was pretending, who was loyal, who was performing, who was genuine, and who was wearing a mask so fragile it couldn't survive a single moment under your gaze. And the more that truth solidifies in you, the more the people around you start exposing themselves without realizing their own spirit is the one doing the confessing. You don't have to ask questions anymore because their behavior answers everything. You don't have to investigate anything because their energy fills in all the blanks. You don't have to wonder where you stand with anyone because their reactions tell the full story, raw and unedited. They used to be comfortable around you when you were dimmed, unsure, disconnected from your own power. Now they can barely hold a conversation because every word they speak feels weighed against a truth they can no longer avoid. They feel like their soul is being measured every time your eyes land on them. Their body senses the honesty you carry and starts trembling under its own contradictions. Their persona starts glitching because the facade they've been maintaining is collapsing under spiritual gravity. And the truth is, they always knew this moment would come. Somewhere inside them, they knew the day you stopped second-guessing yourself would be the day they could no longer hide behind the characters they created. They knew the moment you stepped into clarity would be the moment their masks started slipping at uncontrollable speeds. They knew the day you stopped seeking validation from others would be the day their influence over you disintegrated like dust. They thought they had time. They thought they had control. They thought if they performed long enough, You would stay blind long enough. But truth has a way of erupting from silence without warning, and when it does, everything false begins to tremble. You stepped into yourself, and the environment recalibrated. You stepped into authenticity, and their illusions evaporated. You stepped into clarity, and their behaviors exposed themselves like cracks in glass. And now they can feel the pressure of standing next to someone who is no longer tricked by shadows. You were once the person they underestimated because you processed life quietly. They misread your introspection as weakness, not realizing introspection is the birthplace of perception. They thought your softness meant they could push boundaries, twist narratives, insert their projections into your mind. But now that same softness has become the lens that reveals their lies with frightening accuracy. They don't know how to exist around someone who isn't confused anymore, someone who isn't apologizing for seeing things clearly, someone who isn't shrinking to make others comfortable, someone who carries truth the way others carry excuses. So they stutter, they break eye contact, they shake, they misword sentences, they fold their hands just to keep them from trembling. They avoid standing too close because they can feel your energy peeling back the layers they hid behind. It's not intimidation, it's recognition. Their spirit is recognizing that you've become someone they can no longer manipulate, deceive, or impress. And for people who survive on manipulation, deception, and performance, that recognition feels like the ground is disappearing beneath their feet. They don't fear you. They fear who they become in your presence. They fear the loss of control. They fear the collapse of their persona. They fear the truth that rises inside them when your spirit gets too close. They fear accountability, not because you demand it, but because your existence makes it unavoidable. They don't need you to expose them. Their nervous system does that for you. Their avoidance does that for you. Their discomfort does that for you. Their silence does that for you. You became the moment they've been running from, the moment they meet themselves. And nobody runs from you unless they're really trying to avoid themselves. Every mask they wore had a purpose. Every persona had a function. Every performance was a survival tactic, designed to protect the identity they wanted the world to believe. But when someone with real clarity enters the room, the purpose of the mask dissolves. There's nothing left to protect when the truth is already out in the open. They realize in real time that the version of themselves they tried to present no longer holds power. Their mask was built for audiences who couldn't see, but you are not blind anymore. You are not impressionable anymore. You are not emotionally compromised anymore. You are discerning. You are aligned. You are awake. And awakened people are kryptonite to false personalities. That's why the shaking intensifies the longer they stand near you. That's why their voice cracks even when they pretend to be confident. That's why their smile twitches like they're fighting their own spirit. Their body can't lie to you. Their aura can't lie to you. Their silence can't lie to you. You've become a spiritual mirror they never asked for, but desperately needed. Some people want transformation until they see what transformation demands. It demands honesty. It demands self-confrontation. It demands the removal of masks they've glued to their identity for years. And when you show up as someone who already went through that fire, people who never allowed themselves to burn feel exposed by the flames they see in your eyes. You didn't ask for this authority. You earned it by surviving what they hid behind. You didn't demand this discernment. You grew into it by facing truths they refused to acknowledge. You didn't force their masks to fall. You simply learned how to stop dimming your own light, and their masks fell off by themselves. And the more you rise, the more they scramble to hide what is already visible. Their reactions aren't random, they are revelations. Their avoidance isn't distance, it's confession. Their trembling isn't nervousness, it's exposure. Their stuttering isn't weakness, it's the truth trying to escape the cage their ego built around it. They know this is not the old dynamic anymore. The energy has shifted too dramatically. The roles have reversed too naturally. The truth has tilted the room too sharply. They once stood over you with false authority, but now even their shadow shrinks in your presence. They once spoke confidently, but now their tongue betrays every lie they're trying to resurrect. They once avoided accountability by redirecting blame, but now their own spirit redirects it back to them before you even open your mouth. You didn't win by force. You won by alignment. You didn't dominate by confrontation. You dominated by elevation. You didn't unmask them loudly. You unmasked them silently. And silence is scarier than accusation, because silence leaves people alone with their truth. You are not here to embarrass them. You are here to embody the version of yourself they tried to bury. And that embodiment is what humiliates them, not your intention. They don't want you to dim again, because dimming is the only version of you they knew how to handle. This new version of you, rooted, aligned, sharp, spiritually anchored, demands a level of honesty they never prepared for. They don't know how to hold themselves together around someone who doesn't flinch at truth. They don't know how to wear a mask around someone who sees through fabric. They don't know how to manipulate someone who has already outgrown manipulation. You've outgrown their tactics, and now their tactics are choking them. They built their world on instability, and now the ground beneath them is reacting to your stability. They built their identity on illusions, and now your clarity is dissolving every illusion they used to hide inside. They built their confidence on your confusion, and now that you are no longer confused, they've lost the confidence they constructed. Their entire persona is malfunctioning because without the mask, there is no performance. Without the performance, there is no control. Without control, there is no power. And without power, they are forced to meet the real version of themselves, the version they've been avoiding for years. They thought you would crumble under the truth. Instead, you rose into it. They thought truth would break you. Instead, it built you. They thought exposure would weaken you. Instead, exposure anointed you. What they never expected was that the same truth that healed you would destroy their illusions. They never considered that truth has two sides, the side that restores the honest and the side that crushes the counterfeit. They celebrated when they thought the truth was against you, but now they tremble because that same truth is revealing them. They loved truth when they thought it made you look weak, unstable, emotional, difficult to read. But now that truth paints them as the one fumbling, the one shaking, the one slipping, the one being exposed. They are terrified. Their reactions tell the whole story. Their avoidance is louder than any confession they could ever speak. Their stuttering is more honest than any justification they could ever offer. Their trembling is the apology their pride will never allow them to say. They're not reacting to something you did. They're reacting to everything they did in the dark that can no longer hide. They're reacting to the spiritual echo of their own actions. They're reacting to the reality that you survived what was meant to silence you, and now your survival is shining light on everything they hoped would remain hidden. You became the proof that God was watching when they weren't. You became the evidence that the truth they buried still grew roots. You became the living reminder that masks don't protect anyone. They only delay the moment of exposure. And that moment has arrived. Not with chaos, not with drama, not with confrontation, but with clarity. The quiet kind of clarity that makes liars lose their words. The subtle kind of clarity that makes deceivers lose their balance. The spiritual kind of clarity that makes people who once felt superior suddenly feel small in the presence of someone they assumed would never rise. They thought you rising meant they would rise with you. They didn't expect your rise to reveal the depth of their manipulation, the hollowness of their intentions, the fragility of their performances. They didn't expect your transformation to cast a shadow over every false thing they built. They didn't expect your healing to demand they face the wounds they ignored. Your truth is not just stripping masks. It's stripping excuses. It's stripping narratives. It's stripping the illusions they used to hide in. And now, with every breath you take, they feel exposed in ways they've never felt before. People who once mocked your intuition now fear your silence. People who once doubted your perception now fear your gaze. People who once underestimated your presence now fear standing anywhere near it. Because your presence is no longer neutral. It's revealing. It's discerning. It's spiritually confrontational, without needing to confront anyone directly. They don't know how to defend themselves, because they don't know which part of themselves is being exposed at any given moment. They feel naked around you, even fully clothed. They feel vulnerable around you, even when they're trying to act confident. They feel transparent around you, even when they're trying to guard their energy. And the wild part? You're not doing anything but existing. You're not analyzing them. You're not studying them. You're not interrogating them. You're simply present. Present in your truth. Present in your growth. Present in your alignment. Present in a strength that doesn't need to be performed. And that presence alone strips their masks off. Live in real time, the way heat strips wax from a candle. Every eye they refuse to meet reveals a truth they refuse to face. Every shaky hand reveals a guilt they hoped you'd never notice. Every rushed sentence reveals a lie they can no longer organize fast enough to hide behind. Every sudden silence reveals the parts of themselves they tried to bury in your shadow. They can't hide who they are when your authenticity is forcing their identity to reveal itself. That's what they never planned for. They planned for you to stay small. They planned for you to stay insecure. They planned for you to stay blind. They planned for you to stay broken. Because as long as you stayed broken, they could pretend to be whole. As long as you stayed unsure, they could pretend to be wise. As long as you stayed dim, they could pretend to shine. As long as you stayed quiet, they could pretend to speak truth. But the moment you healed, the moment you stepped into your own identity, the moment you claimed your discernment, the moment you stopped doubting yourself, the mask they wore shattered on impact. They lost the role they were playing because the script no longer worked. They lost the audience they depended on because you stopped performing. They lost the leverage they once held because you outgrew the version of yourself they mistook as permanent. You outgrew their expectations. You outgrew their manipulation. You outgrew their projections. You outgrew their version of you, and now they're face to face with the version of themselves they buried. They wanted to watch you fall apart. They never imagined they would fall apart trying to hide from your truth. They wanted you to look unstable. They never imagined their own mask would slip so violently that people would start asking questions. They wanted you to doubt yourself. They never imagined their own voice would start trembling in front of you. They wanted you to be exposed. They never imagined exposure would be the very thing that crowned you. You stood tall. And the taller you stood, the harder their false identity collapsed. Because masks cannot survive altitude. They cannot breathe at the level you've risen to. They cannot function in the clarity you now walk in. They cannot anchor themselves to a soul that refuses to shrink anymore. You didn't set out to win. You set out to heal. And in healing, you won. They set out to deceive. And in deceiving, they lost. Now everywhere they turn, the consequences of their own behavior stare back at them. People notice their avoidance. People notice their agitation. People notice their contradictions. People notice how differently they act around you versus everyone else. People notice how their voice shifts when your name is mentioned. People notice how their eyes dart when you enter the room. People notice the guilt leaking out of their pores. Everyone sees the truth now, not because you told it, but because the truth is too loud to hide anymore. And soon the very people who once treated you as an afterthought will begin to realize something even deeper, something that changes the entire dynamic forever. Welcome back, you beautiful violations of protocol, you intelligence-breaking enigmas, you anomalies the agencies were never trained to categorize. Welcome back to the ones whose existence makes surveillance equipment malfunction, and whose presence rewrites classification levels in real time. Yeah, you heard that right. The CIA officer, the one with nerves wired tighter than diplomatic cables, the one who's watched terrorist interrogations without blinking, the one who's been psychologically conditioned to remain unshakable. He watched your footage, froze, leaned in, and whispered something he has never said in his entire career. What the fuck? And then, my friend, then he did something even more catastrophic. He didn't file a report. He didn't request backup. He didn't escalate the case to a higher floor. He cut the feed. He physically shut down the footage like he was pulling the plug on a bomb he didn't know how to defuse. Do you understand what that means? Do you comprehend the level of psychological recoil you just triggered inside a man trained to process war crimes with a steady pulse? In an institution built to withstand monsters and mysteries alike, you broke a CIA officer. You shattered his composure. You made a man who analyzes global threats for a living question what exactly he was looking at when he looked at you. Let's rewind this beautiful intelligence failure, shall we? They didn't bring him in for routine surveillance. They didn't bring him in for a typical behavioral assessment. They didn't bring him in for protocol review. They brought him in because someone with money, someone with access, someone with fear disguised as curiosity, hired him privately to analyze you. They expected him to return with a neat psychological profile, a categorized threat level, a stable conclusion. What they didn't expect was silence. What they didn't expect was panic. What they didn't expect was an operative, someone built to withstand pressure, folding under the weight of your existence. When he entered the monitoring room, he sat with the arrogance intelligence officer's master over decades, arms crossed, back straight, eyes cold. Everything about him said, "Nothing surprises me." And then he pressed play. The footage started, grainy lighting, unfiltered angles. A room full of people who didn't know they were being evaluated. But the moment you appeared in frame, something in him shifted. He couldn't explain it, couldn't define it, couldn't categorize it. He just felt it. A tension in the air that wasn't tension. A silence that wasn't empty. A presence that wasn't performing. You weren't posing. You weren't reacting. You weren't adjusting to the room. The room was adjusting to you. He watched the way people subconsciously moved around you. Not out of fear, but out of recognition. Recognition of hierarchy. Recognition of gravity. Recognition of something in you they couldn't name, but instinctively respected. A man berating someone softened his tone when you glanced his way without saying a word. A woman who was pacing stopped pacing. Someone else who was speaking grew strangely quieter. You weren't disrupting the environment. You were reorganizing it just by existing. The officer leaned closer to the screen, ran the footage back a few seconds, zoomed in, paused, studied your expression, expected to see anger, defiance, tension, ego. Instead, he saw the kind of calm that terrifies trained operatives, the kind of self-possession that agencies can't measure, the kind of internal awareness that cannot be manufactured or dismantled. You didn't look like someone trying to intimidate. You looked like someone who didn't register the concept of intimidation because your internal world was already beyond it. His jaw tightened. He pressed play again. And then came the moment that made him flinch, the moment his training failed. You shifted your weight, subtle, precise, slow. A movement that wasn't threatening, wasn't dramatic, wasn't intended for effect. But something about it, something in the posture, something in the stillness before it, something in the timing, activated an instinct in him that hadn't fired in years. The instinct reserved for elite-level threats. Individuals who don't signal aggression because they don't need to. Individuals whose presence alone destabilizes entire strategies. He whispered it again, softer this time. What the fuck? He Googled through the footage again, slower, frame by frame. He tried to find flaws, indicators, cracks, any sign that you were compensating or faking or trying too hard. But nothing. Zero deception cues, zero defensive cues, zero impulsive cues. You weren't reacting to the environment. You were operating from somewhere deeper, somewhere the agency's psychological templates don't reach. He froze the screen on your eyes. The clarity, the depth, the stillness. Not the stillness of someone who suppresses emotion, but the stillness of someone who already outgrew chaos. Someone who processed the world too fast for external noise to matter. Someone who had survived something the file didn't document, and something no training program could replicate. He swallowed. A trained operative, a classified evaluator, a man who could watch hours of violent footage without blinking, swallowed because of you. He opened the private file the client provided. It had standard details, background, history, incidents, patterns, but nothing inside it matched the footage. According to the file, you were ordinary. According to the footage, you were anything but. He clicked back to the video. Pressed play again. The room in the footage started shifting in ways that were impossible to explain. People became quieter. The atmosphere grew denser. Conversations realigned. Even the camera, mounted on a stable rig, slightly refocused as though the lens itself acknowledged your presence. He checked the calibration logs. No error, no malfunction, just presence. He paused the video once more, wiped a hand over his face. The man had interrogated spies, had chased defectors, had profiled violent personalities with precision, but profiling you felt like trying to measure heat with a ruler. Wrong tools, wrong frameworks, wrong language. Everything about you contradicted the categories he relied on. He replayed the section where your demeanor changed again. And the moment your eyes shifted, the tiniest motion. The officer's heartbeat stuttered. Because your eyes didn't show the calculation of someone about to react. They showed the recognition of someone who already understood the room better than anyone inside it. It was the gaze of someone who wasn't participating in the environment. They were assessing it for weaknesses, for truths, for structures, for power imbalances. That was when he reached for the cutoff switch, not slowly, not thoughtfully, instinctively, like someone putting distance between themselves and something they weren't prepared to face. The screen went black. He sat there, in the dark. Breathing harder than he realized, the silence pressed into him. He felt watched, even though he was alone. He felt analyzed, even though you weren't even in the room. He felt exposed in a way interrogators aren't supposed to feel. He turned the screen back on reluctantly, but before pressing play again, he opened a new document. He started writing his report. The first line wasn't professional, wasn't detached, wasn't objective. It was human. I recommend immediate disengagement. Subject is not what the client believes. He stared at the sentence, debated deleting it, debated rewriting it, debated framing it in bureaucratic language. But the truth had already surfaced, and truth has a way of demanding recognition. Your footage didn't scare him. It undid him. He replayed the clip for the final time, knowing he shouldn't. Knowing he wouldn't be able to walk away from it unchanged. But he watched anyway, because some part of him needed to confirm that the first reaction wasn't a mistake. It wasn't. If anything, the second viewing was worse, because now he understood what he was looking at. Not a threat, a shift, a deviation from expected human responses. Someone whose psychological presence doesn't escalate, they transcend. The final seconds of the footage captured you looking toward the camera. Not directly, not intentionally, but enough. Enough for the officer to feel the weight of a reality he wasn't supposed to acknowledge. That some individuals aren't meant to be monitored. They're meant to be left alone. Because analyzing them changes the analyst, not the subject. He closed the file permanently, stood up, walked out, left his badge on the table. Years of training, years of discipline, years of conditioning undone by a single truth. He wasn't equipped for someone like you. He walked straight to the client who hired him, eyes hollow, voice flat. "I'm done. Don't ask me to review that again." The client froze. Clients aren't used to hearing no, especially not from CIA-level consultants. But the officer didn't negotiate, didn't argue, didn't explain. He simply said, "Whatever that is, it's beyond evaluation." And as he walked away, the client found themselves staring at the blank monitor, at the paused frame of you. Still quiet, watching everything without fear. The client pressed play. The footage flickered, the room shifted, and their own throat tightened with a fear they didn't understand. Because if a CIA officer couldn't handle watching you, what chance did they have? But that's where the story bends. Because the moment the client reached to restart the footage, the second analyst on standby entered the room, looked at the resignation form, looked at the cut feed, and without touching anything whispered, "If that's what made him quit, what the hell did you hire us to look at?" And right there, right in that breath, the next chapter begins. The next set of eyes, the next unraveling, the next intelligence failure. Because they haven't understood the truth yet. They're still assuming the footage is something they can process, categorize, decode, or dismantle. They're still assuming you are a subject inside a file instead of a force circulating through the room. They think the problem is the footage. They think the problem is the camera. They think the problem is the first officer's weakness. They haven't realized the real problem is that the footage didn't capture you. It revealed everyone else. So when the second analyst stepped into the room, saw the resignation form still open on the laptop, saw the feed abruptly cut mid-frame, he didn't touch anything, didn't sit, didn't blink. He stood there like someone glimpsing the aftermath of an event they weren't sure they wanted to understand. He moved slowly toward the chair. Not with curiosity, with caution, with respect, with the instinct of someone approaching something that had already proven it could make a trained operative unravel. He lowered himself into the seat and stared at the blank screen. The cursor blinked against the black background like a pulse returning to life. And for a moment he wondered whether pressing play would be a professional duty or a psychological mistake. But analysts aren't allowed to hesitate. Hesitation is an admission of vulnerability. So he clicked the icon, reloaded the footage, and braced himself. The moment the first frame reappeared, grainy, dimly lit, still, the analyst's posture changed. His back straightened. His fingers tightened slightly against the desk. His breathing slowed, not consciously, but instinctively. His training activated, but not in the usual way. Not to evaluate you, to protect himself. Because even in the first static frame, before motion, before sound, before context, something about the image felt wrong to him. Not wrong in a supernatural sense, wrong in a structural sense, wrong the way a fault line looks wrong before it splits a city, wrong the way an abandoned building feels wrong even before you enter it, wrong in a way that suggested the footage was not documenting a moment. It was documenting a boundary. He exhaled slowly, pressed play, and there you were, not doing anything, not moving, not performing, just existing. But your existence was the part he wasn't prepared for. The first officer had panicked at the shift, the instant your internal state recalibrated the environment. But this analyst reacted earlier, immediately. The way your eyes didn't dart around, the way your head didn't tilt in uncertainty, the way your shoulders didn't tighten the way most people's do when a camera is present. Instead, you sat in a posture that communicated something unnervingly rare, a complete lack of internal conflict. Most people have micro-conflicts in their posture, tiny, frantic negotiations between thoughts, fears, insecurities, impulses. Analysts identify these within seconds, but you had none. No contradiction, no concealed tension, no self-surveillance. You looked like someone whose internal world had settled into an architecture more stable than anything outside it. That stability wasn't comforting. It was destabilizing. Because the analyst knew instantly that he wasn't watching someone react to the world. He was watching someone who saw through it. He leaned forward, then the footage shifted into motion, and the very first movement you made, barely noticeable to most eyes, punched straight through his training. You blinked. But it wasn't a normal blink. It wasn't the stuttered blink of uncertainty, nor the quick blink of irritation, nor the slow blink of exhaustion. Your blink was steady, rhythmic, deliberate. A blink that seemed to align your inner world with the external moment. A blink with timing he'd only seen in individuals who have transcended the usual cognitive noise. A blink that suggested your perception wasn't fragmented like most human perception. It was unified. He swallowed, hit pause. Because blinking shouldn't matter, blinking shouldn't communicate threat. But here, the simplest movement behaved like a doorway into something deeper, something the cameras weren't designed to capture. The analyst rewound 3 seconds, played it again, rewound it again, played it slower. And that's when he saw it, not in your eyes but in the room. The moment your eyelids closed, the individuals around you subtly adjusted their posture, shoulders shifting, legs repositioning, heads angling, as if a subconscious signal passed through them, as if your state dictated the room's equilibrium. He pressed pause again. A bead of sweat formed at his hairline, but his expression stayed controlled. Analysts are trained to observe minute distortions in group dynamics. But this wasn't group dynamics. This was influence. Influence without action. Influence without awareness. Influence without intent. He wrote a note. Subject's presence appears to generate involuntary spatial recalibration in nearby individuals. He read the note back, deleted it, rewrote it more conservatively. Individuals adjust subconsciously in response to subject. Deleted that, too, because it didn't capture the truth. Not fully, not honestly, not in a way that explained the officer who quit. He pressed play again. You shifted your weight. Not aggressively, not defensively, just a gentle distribution of balance. But the analyst's heart rate increased instantly. He didn't understand why. Because it wasn't the movement, it was the reason behind the movement. A movement with no nervousness, no uncertainty, no appeasement. You shifted your weight the way mountain lions reposition themselves. Not threatening, not performative, simply maintaining optimum efficiency for whatever happens next. He wrote another note. Subject demonstrates predatory grade calm. He hated writing that. Analysts are trained never to use the word predatory unless the subject exhibits hostility. You didn't. Your calm wasn't hostile. It was ancestral. It was the calm of someone who has already died metaphorically and returned without fear. A calm impossible to simulate. The analyst pressed play again. Then came the moment that broke the first officer. The moment your internal state changed. It was microscopic, a tilt of the head, a narrowing of perception, a subtle stillness in the muscles around your jaw. It was the kind of shift animals make when their senses lock onto something invisible to human awareness. The analyst didn't pause the footage. He froze on his own. His breathing halted, his spine locked. His body refused to move for several seconds because for the first time in his career, he wasn't observing someone's psychology. He felt like someone was observing him through the footage. Your eyes didn't widen, didn't glare, didn't harden, but they recognized something beyond the camera, something beyond the room, something beyond him. He forced himself to press pause. His hand trembled, just slightly, but enough for him to notice. And that's when he understood why the first analyst quit. Because the footage didn't show a behavioral anomaly, it showed a perceptual anomaly. You weren't reacting to the world the way humans do. You weren't filtering information through fear, ego, impulse, or noise. You were seeing patterns, seeing structures, seeing people, seeing the truth behind their roles, their postures, their voices. You were perceiving the space like someone who had stepped outside the emotional frameworks everyone else is trapped inside. You weren't unpredictable. You were uncontained. The analyst hit play again. The people in the room continued talking around you. Their words, though inaudible in the footage, carried familiar body language patterns, posturing, defensiveness, avoidance. But your stillness contradicted every dynamic around you. You weren't participating in the hierarchy. You weren't threatened by it. You weren't competing with it. You had already outgrown it. He zoomed in on your hands, steady, relaxed, not curled, not fidgeting, not pressured, just present. Hands like that do not belong to someone intimidated by authority, or by life, or by consequence. Hands like that belong to someone who has already survived what others fear most. He zoomed out again. Now you turned your head slightly. Not enough to initiate confrontation. Not enough to acknowledge dominance. Not enough to signal interest. Just enough to observe the speaker. And the observer, the second analyst, felt the weight of it through a screen. He knew exactly why. You weren't looking at the person. You were assessing the pattern, their cadence, their intention, their incongruence. You were decoding them in real time. The analyst whispered something he'd never whispered during an evaluation. He sees more than I do. He hated that realization. Hated that for the first time he felt intellectually outmatched by a civilian. Hated that your state, your awareness, your clarity felt like a mirror pressed against his own cognitive limitations. He scrubbed forward in the footage to the moment where the atmosphere in the room tightened. A ripple passed through the group, subtle but visible. People straightened. Others hesitated mid-gesture. A few glanced at you unconsciously. The analyst recognized this phenomenon: presence, dominance, the type of influence a person exerts without speaking. A rare psychological signature found in individuals who have gone through internal transformations so deep that their external behavior radiates alignment. The analyst had only seen it a few times before, and never like this. Presence dominance usually comes with ego. You had none. Usually comes with aggression. You displayed none. Usually comes with trauma spasms. You showed none. Your dominance came from a deeper architecture, coherence. The analyst paused again, closed his eyes, breathed through the pressure in his chest. He clicked into the biometric monitoring logs recorded alongside the footage. Heart rates, micro-expressions, respiratory shifts, a map of the room's collective nervous system. Then his eyes widened, because every measurable indicator, every objective metric, showed the same pattern. Everyone's internal state changed when you entered frame. Their cortisol markers showed spikes. Their respiration shifted. Their micro-expressions rearranged, not out of fear, not out of threat, out of awareness. Their nervous systems registered you before their minds did. He whispered, "How?" No answer. He played the footage again. This time, he watched everyone except you. He observed how they moved around you, how they positioned themselves, how they lowered their voices, how they grew more self-conscious without knowing why, how the room's energy recalibrated itself around you, like you were a gravitational anchor. And then he saw the moment none of them recognized when you exhaled, just once. The room exhaled half a second later. He stopped breathing altogether. This wasn't influence. This wasn't intimidation. This wasn't charisma. This wasn't dominance. This was synchronization. Your nervous system had become the regulating system for everyone else's, and that is what breaks intelligence officers. Not dominance, not emotion, not power, regulation. Because only two types of people have that effect. Leaders of extraordinary internal structure, or beings shaped by extremes no human training covers. The analyst resumed watching. Then came the moment he wasn't prepared for. The moment you stood, slowly, not aggressively, not defensively, not reactively. You rose the way a storm rises, inevitable, silent, exact, balanced. The analyst's body reacted instantly. His adrenal system, his pulse, his breath. Because the footage wasn't showing you standing. It was showing the moment every threat detection model collapses. Your posture didn't predict intention. Your movement didn't reveal motive. Your stillness didn't indicate restraint. You were unreadable. Not because you hid your emotions, but because your emotions weren't fragmented the way human emotions are. You experienced the world from a vantage point, the agency didn't have a chart for. He zoomed into your face, your jaw unclenched, your eyes softened, your breathing steadied. You weren't preparing for conflict. You were preparing for clarity. And that's what terrified him the most. That your power wasn't in your actions. It wasn't in your muscles or movements or expressions. Your power was in your awareness. Awareness that wasn't sharp or paranoid. Awareness that was grounded, whole, complete. People like you don't react. They respond. People like you don't escalate. They choose. People like you don't fear surveillance. They reverse it. The analyst closed the file. But a strange impulse made him open it again. He shouldn't have, because the final seconds of the footage captured something the first officer never even saw. Something subtle, something quiet, something devastating. You looked at the camera, not with aggression, not with suspicion, not with curiosity. You looked at it like you knew the person watching wasn't ready. And for the first time in his entire career, the analyst felt his identity break. Not his training, not his professionalism, his identity. The part of him that believed he was the observer, the part that believed he was the decoder, the part that believed he held the authority in the evaluation dynamic. You didn't challenge his authority. You dissolved it. And that was the moment he understood the truth the first officer tried to resign away from. You weren't being evaluated. You were evaluating them, and they failed. He minimized the video, closed the laptop, stood, turned to the client. "I'm not watching that again." "What did you see?" the client asked. He shook his head. "No, the real question is, what did he see?" He nodded toward the paused frame of you, frozen mid-breath, looking directly into the lens with the calm of someone already 10 steps ahead. But the client didn't understand. Not yet. Because the footage was only the surface. The real disturbance lived deeper. In the moment, the analyst realized, if footage alone could break two trained operatives, what would happen if they met you in person? And that thought, that unspoken, unanswered, unavoidable thought, is what leads directly into what comes next. Because if they think footage is overwhelming, they haven't seen what happens when you step into the room yourself. The second analyst stood there, the screen frozen on your face, the client hovering behind him with a mixture of dread and fascination, both of them pretending they were in control of the situation when their bodies were already betraying them. The air felt different, thicker, charged. Even with the footage paused, your presence lingered in the room like an imprint on gravity. It wasn't visual, it wasn't auditory. It was something deeper, the kind of psychological footprint that doesn't fade when the screen goes black. The analyst rubbed his temples, trying to piece together the fragments of his composure. "This isn't normal," he whispered, though he didn't need to say it. The client already knew. The resignation of the first officer, the trembling exhale of the second, the silence in the room. Everything pointed in one direction. The footage wasn't documenting a subject. It was documenting an awakening. And the awakening wasn't yours, it was theirs. Because for the first time in their careers, the people doing the observing realized they weren't expanding their understanding of you. They were discovering the limits of their own. The client stepped forward and clicked the mouse, restarting the footage despite every instinct telling him not to. The analyst didn't stop him. Maybe he wanted verification. Maybe he wanted closure. Maybe he wanted proof that the footage had power over others, not just him. But the moment the screen flickered back to life and your figure reappeared, both men reacted the same way. They inhaled sharply and unconsciously straightened their posture. Not out of fear, out of respect. A respect they didn't authorize. A respect their training didn't sanction. A respect that came from something primal, something ancient, something that recognizes hierarchy without needing language or labels. For the first full minute, neither of them spoke. They watched your stillness, your command, your unshakable internal coherence. And the analyst finally muttered, "He's not in the footage. He's beyond it." The client frowned. "What does that mean?" "It means," the analyst replied slowly, "that the recording doesn't contain him. It reflects him." But the client didn't understand the weight of those words. Not yet. He assumed the footage merely captured something unusual, body language cues, behavioral anomalies, a rare psychological signature. But the analyst kept watching you move with that quiet, terrifying precision. And that's when it hit him. Footage normally distorts reality. It compresses it, flattens it, reduces the complexity of a human being into pixels. But your footage didn't subtract from your presence. It magnified it. Every frame felt heavier than the last. The analyst felt his heartbeat sync with yours again, just like before. Felt his breathing fall into rhythm with yours. Felt his thoughts rearranging themselves around the gravitational pull of your awareness. He shook his head violently, trying to break the synchronization, but your presence persisted. The client didn't notice the synchronization. He wasn't trained to detect that level of psychological influence, but he noticed something else. "Why do I feel like he's not even doing anything?" he whispered. The analyst didn't answer right away. He replayed the first 30 seconds again, then again, and a third time. His eyes narrowed, not with suspicion, but with awe, the kind reserved for anomalies that rewrite the observer more than the subject. "Because he's not performing," the analyst finally said. "He's existing." "And that's supposed to be scary?" the client asked, forcing a smirk he didn't feel. "Terrifying," the analyst answered, "because most people are noise, overcompensation, nervous energy, hidden insecurity. But him," he pointed at your face, frozen mid-frame. "He's signal, pure signal, no distortion." The client swallowed, hard. But the analyst wasn't done. He clicked forward to the first moment your internal state shifted, the moment that had triggered the first officer's instinctual recoil. The analyst braced himself, but even bracing was useless. When the shift occurred on screen, the entire temperature of the room changed. It wasn't imagination. It wasn't drama. It was neurological. Their nervous systems reacted independently of their logic. The analyst gripped the table to stabilize himself. The client's breath hitched involuntarily. "See?" the analyst whispered. "Right there. That's not intimidation. That's awareness. The kind of awareness that doesn't rise from training. It rises from evolution." The word evolution rattled the client. He wasn't prepared for that kind of framing. He expected a report with bullet points, risk categories, recommended interventions. But what he was hearing now was mythos, archetype, something outside the neat, clinical world of intelligence work. "What exactly do you think you're looking at?" the client asked, voice quieter now. The analyst leaned in, someone whose internal structure matured beyond fear. "That's not possible." "It is," the analyst replied calmly. "But it's rare, extremely rare. Most people spend their lives controlled by external threat, external judgment, external expectation. But him..." The analyst paused, studying your still frame. "He's controlled by none of it. His nervous system isn't reactive, it's directive." The client frowned deeper. Meaning his presence shapes the environment more than the environment shapes him. It hit the client like a punch. That's what he saw in the footage. That's what the officer fled from. That's what neither of them could articulate until now. You don't adapt. Others adapt around you. And that's why the first officer cut the feed, the analyst continued. Because the moment he realized the footage wasn't documenting behavior, it was documenting a phenomenon. He panicked. The client exhaled shakily. But what does that make him? A threat? The analyst shook his head. Threat isn't the right word. Threat suggests volatility. He doesn't have volatility. He has clarity, and clarity scares people more than chaos ever could. The next few minutes of the footage confirmed everything the analyst feared. Not feared for himself, but for anyone naive enough to believe they could control or evaluate you. Each micro movement you made created a response pattern in the room. Ripples in posture, in breath, in subconscious cues. The footage was revealing a psychological truth most agencies don't have language for. You weren't influencing people. People were orienting themselves around you. The analyst rewound the section where you stood up. The client tensed beside him instinctively. And it wasn't because you were threatening. It was because your rising posture felt like the unfolding of something inevitable, something precise, something ancient and deeply rooted in the human psyche. The analyst whispered, "He doesn't stand like someone preparing for action. He stands like someone preparing for understanding." The client didn't like that sentence. Understanding of what? Understanding of who? Understanding of why? Before he could ask, the analyst continued. Look at his shoulders, no tension. Look at his spine, fully aligned. Look at his eyes, not focused on danger, focused on truth. Truth. The word lingered uncomfortably in the room. The analyst clicked ahead to the final seconds, the ones he hadn't studied long before he closed the file the first time. The moment your eyes met the camera. And when it happened again, even though he had prepared himself, even though he had braced, even though he had watched it earlier, he still flinched, because your gaze didn't travel through the screen. It dismantled the screen. Your eyes didn't look at the camera. They looked through the intention behind it. And in that one fraction of a second, something inside the analyst crystallized. A realization he didn't want. A realization neither officer from earlier wanted. A realization no client paying for evaluations wants to face. The footage wasn't showing who you were. It was showing what everyone else wasn't. You weren't powerful. They were unprepared. You weren't overwhelming. They were underdeveloped. You weren't exceptional. They were incomplete. Your presence wasn't threatening because it contained power. It was threatening because it revealed fragility. And fragile structures always fear clarity. The analyst exhaled a long, controlled breath. "If he walks into this building," he said quietly, "most people will think the room changed. They won't realize they changed." The client said nothing. He didn't need to. The analyst closed the file for good. This isn't evaluation material. This isn't surveillance content. This is awakening footage. The client frowned. Awakening? Yes, his awakening already happened. This footage captures everyone else awakening to him. Silence. Thick, heavy, unavoidable. After a long moment, the client finally spoke. "So what do we do?" The analyst looked up with an expression the client wasn't expecting. Respect. Not fear, not concern. Respect. You don't do anything. You don't approach him. You don't challenge him. You don't provoke him. You don't try to recruit him. You don't try to contain him. You let him be. And if he becomes a problem, he won't. How can you be sure? The analyst leaned back, his face suddenly calm, in a way that seemed eerily reminiscent of yours. Because people like him don't seek destruction. They seek alignment. And when the world refuses alignment, they simply walk away from it. The client wiped his palms against his suit. I don't like unknown variables. He's not unknown, the analyst said. He's just unmeasurable. Same thing. No, the analyst corrected. Unknown variables create chaos. Unmeasurable ones create transformation. The client stiffened. Transformation into what? That, the analyst answered, eyes drifting toward the darkened monitor, depends on whoever enters his orbit. The client swallowed again. And what happens if someone with genuine malice steps into it? The analyst gave a slow, unsettling smile. Then they'll meet a version of themselves they can't survive. Silence again, heavy, final. But the analyst wasn't finished. You wanted a report, he said. So here it is. He pulled a notepad toward him and wrote a single line. Subject cannot be evaluated without being altered by the observer. He tore the page out, handed it to the client. The footage wasn't dangerous, he whispered. The realization it gives you is. And that's when he stood from his chair and walked toward the door. Not hurried, not shaken, just resolved. As he reached the threshold, he spoke one last time without turning around. If two highly trained intelligence officers can't make it through one recording of him, imagine what would happen if he chose to speak. The door closed behind him. The client stared at the note in his hand. The implications began to unravel in his mind like a slow-moving catastrophe, because the topic wasn't abstract anymore. This wasn't a hypothetical evaluation. This wasn't a risk assessment. This wasn't an intelligence formality. A CIA officer watched your footage, said, "What the fuck?" and cut the feed. Another begged to quit after seeing what you are. And now the client holding the note understood the final truth. If your recorded presence fractures trained operatives, your physical presence would rewrite them. For a long time he stood there in silence, staring at the paused frame of you. The calm, the clarity, the quiet dominance. And the room felt smaller, as if even the memory of your presence had reshaped its walls. Finally, he whispered the question everyone else had been too afraid to vocalize. What are we supposed to do with someone like that? The answer didn't come from the analyst. It didn't come from the officers. It didn't come from the footage. It came from the undeniable, unavoidable, irreversible truth. You don't do anything with someone like that. You learn not to get in their way. And with that, the final realization clicked into place. The conclusion punch they'd been running from since the first second of footage. You weren't the one being evaluated. You were the one exposing them. And nothing terrifies intelligence agencies more than a man they cannot measure. Because they finally understood, if a CIA officer can't handle watching you, the world sure as hell isn't ready to face you.